Hello, everyone. I wanted to take some time to do an in depth explanation of masks in Yokohama. When I first wrote Nemesis Sensei back in 2018, I was figuring it out as I went along, but I had certain goals. And one of them was I spent a lot of time on world building and establishing the mask subculture in Yokohama. And I wanted to establish that there had been people born gifted throughout human history, and that for whatever reason, more and more of them were being born in the 21st century. And um, I wanted to show the relationship between the previous generation of masks and the current generation, and show how things were being affected by those choices made in the past. And I also wanted to uh, create a sort of framework for a masks shared universe, because my ultimate goal is for other writers to tell their own mask stories, not in Yokohama, unless the writer's from there and can do a better job at portraying the city than me. I will freely tip my hat and give them their reign. But the idea was for things like masks in Worcester, masks in Mindanao, masks in Quito, masks in Madrid, so on and so forth. And the sort of guidelines were that the power levels must be low. No Superman, no uh, Galactus, right? We're not dealing with planetary scale. We're dealing with small scale. And also, the stories must stay local. They must be small, human stories. Nobody's conquering the world, nobody's saving the world. Other universes handle those stories and they do fine. Not our goal. And the other thing is that the masks have a burden. Their gifts come at a price. All of them, all of the masks, all the gifted people have mental illnesses, are neurodivergent. There's nobody who's normal and also gifted. Um, and then their gifts are fueled. They have to pay a cost, whether it's by burning up certain minerals or vitamins in their body, or fueled by their body tissues. Some sort of cost is paid for the use of the gifts so that they don't just willy nilly throw them about. They have to do things with their own hands, because the idea is that the masks are still humans, they're still mortal. They are not going to be overcoming the forces of nature. Uh, you know, no mask is going to be strong enough to change the tides or shift the tectonic plates. That's just not how these stories operate. And the other idea was that magic and the gods exist in this world, but how active they are in the affairs of mortals is a bit more wishy washy. So I made a specific choice to only portray smaller scope deities. There's references to Susanoo, the storm god, and of course King Moho, the god of steam. And um, he is present, but he doesn't do much. And that's a deliberate choice because, we're not going to have Dungeons and Dragons clerics running around calling upon the might of the gods and, again, using powerful things to change the world, right? Because um, when you get right down to it, a Dungeons and Dragons cleric can be absurdly powerful, depending on the kind of spells that they choose. My goodness. Um, Even just small transmutations can be very significant. And so, uh, always with the idea and the intention of keeping the scale small and keeping the scope local. So, people could otherwise have fun with that and, the kind of stories they want to tell with that, I would be interested to see. And so it was important to have power with a cost and to have the stories be human because it's always about the people, and that's what I want. If anyone decides to take up the offer and write their own masks stories, I want them to be about people. And the kind of stories that I tell are about healing. They're about trauma and recovery and growth. And to do that, a lot of really sensitive topics are portrayed. Things like partner abuse, things like incest. Um, and I understand these are sensitive topics, and I hope that I always come off as sensitive to that and sympathetic. That is always the goal, not to ever be lascivious or to cheapen or seem exploitative of the trauma that real people live with. Because I myself had an abusive childhood. I was raised in a cult. I am a victim of incest myself. So I wanted to have a frank but still sensitive and sympathetic discussion of such topics. And if other writers choose to do that as well, power to them. But while I also frankly discuss sexuality, it is also not with the intent to be lascivious or to be exploitative, but to show the choices these characters make and the lives that they lead and the consequences thereof. Hiroi is not very choosy or discriminating about his choices of sexual partners. He basically will have sex with any willing woman, and that has consequences for him. That frequently uh, has a cost for him in his life, and he eventually learns from that, and he makes these kinds of choices because he falls into this eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die mentality. And then when he has to live with the consequences of those choices, he realizes he doesn't really like that and makes some changes in his life, but he has to make those mistakes and face those consequences to get there. So um, I'm not encouraging reckless behavior and lifestyles. I am showing that real life is not squeaky clean. Real life is not um, the primrose path. Real life is dirty. Real life is messy. And people really are going to make choices. And so that was a goal and a choice that I made. And I did it deliberately because I made a choice that I was going to write romantic stories, but I wasn't going to write erotic stories. And so I tried to keep the steam level within certain boundaries. And as always, the mileage varies, and I get that and I respect that. But I just wanted to explain myself because that's something that always weighs on me is I don't want to be misunderstood. I am just a soul whose intentions are good, as the song says. And thank you for taking the time to listen to this. If you would like me to do more in depth explanations of things or other stories, uh, please comment so, and I'll be glad to do that. For now, cheers, and may love guide your every step.